here with Kell Bell. Today, I would love to talk about some common concepts students are still confusing. Now, these have stemmed over the last, 12 years, and I've looked at what the common mistakes students keep making. Now, this comes from my experience as a senior marker, as the supervisor of marking in CAFS, as well as presenting HSC sessions for the best part of, 12 years. So I probably started back in 2007. Actually before that, so a long time. Professional learning since 2010, but prior to that, 2007, I was super young, put my hand up and said, yep, I'm happy to present some HSC sessions to students. And look, these are some common concepts that the students really are still confused with. So let's go to our cores for Year 11. So there's four main ones in Year 11 that the students still confuse. And it doesn't matter how many times we say this with the students, they often confuse those concepts. And I think, look, it's something that we really can continue to work on. So the first one is the difference between a need and a want. So a need is necessary for survival and a want is like a desire. So it's really important for the students to really uncover the difference between the two, and doing some activities with them will definitely help you eliminate some of those main issues. So looking at what is a need, so that definition, and maybe an activity to help the kids with that. So, she sees using that acronym, helping the kids kind of navigate their way through that. And then a want is like a desire. The other thing that the kids get confused with is the difference between a need and a resource. So obviously she sees is for needs, and then resources, we either have a human resource or a non-human resource. Now, those two definitions, the kids also confuse. So human resource is what's within us in terms of our skills, abilities, talents, our knowledge, and then everything else is a non-human resource. So a computer, our phone, social media is a non-human resource, a car, a table, that type of thing. So the kids really showing the difference between the two. And I've seen that in their exams. I've seen that during Year 11 masterclass sessions that I present for CAFS. So look, the kids still confuse those. The other major concept that the kids confuse in Year 11 is the difference between informal and formal support. Now, that comes up in resource management in Year 11 in Core 1. And look, I think the students still kind of, when they're using examples, they draw on examples that, especially for when they look at informal support, they still draw on some of those formal examples. So it's really important for the kids to distinguish that a formal support is like a paid service, and then like through maybe a carer, through a nursing home, that type of thing. And then obviously, and formal support is some sort of, you need some sort of qualification, or there's a professional service that's being provided. So there are two kind of issues that the kids come up with, the difference between a formal and informal support. The other one is within formal support, the difference between a government agency and a community organisation. Now that particular concept isn't just confused in Year 11, it's very much confused in Year 12. And I know for the 15 odd masterclasses that I presented this year in Year 12 CAFS, that the kids still continue to use examples, especially for those government organisations that were either community organisations, or then for community organisations still drew on those government agencies. So it's really important for us to draw those out and show the difference between the kids, show the difference to the kids. A couple of other things that come up with, especially in families and communities, obviously our big list of family structures, the kids still confuse some of them, fostering, adoption, that type of thing. Some of those intricacies between those, they make the mistake in Year 11, and then you see it again in their content for Year 12. So let's really dive into some other common misconceptions or mistakes students are still making in CAFS. And look, I think that it might stem from our lack of knowledge around those concepts, and us really firming up some of our understanding of that content. So let me know if some of these things are common mistakes that your students are also making as well. So in research methodology, the difference between a primary research method and a secondary research method. They know that primary research is firsthand. They know that secondary research is done by somebody else, like a past researcher, or you might draw on an article, that type of thing. But some of their examples, they're still a little bit confused with. So students may be able to articulate or draw on their knowledge of the content, but their understanding of it is a little bit lacking. So it's really important for us to work out ways to help the kids really demystify this. So one way inside my CAFS Collective membership that we've done that is come up with these little cards. So CAFS Collective members have access to these. So we have like cards where you can kind of either display these in class, or the kids might do some sort of activity that shows the difference between the two. So having some sort of visual is always great for the kids, or some sort of matching activity. You might have like primary research here, maybe a couple of examples, and then secondary research. The kids can kind of see the difference between the two. The other common mistake the kids make is, and let me know if this is you, is the difference between qualitative and quantitative data. Now, qualitative data has the word quality in it. Quantitative data has the word quantity in it, or numbers. So a really great way that I think students at Catherine Macaulay actually mentioned was they remember it by the word N being in quantity. So the quantity one is with N. So that's the numerical one, where we use statistics, data, graphs, trends to help support our research. And then qualitative is that we can get some really great quality responses. Again, like inside the CAFS masterclass, inside the CAFS Collective, we have some visuals to help the kids as well. Now, a major concept that the kids still continue to confuse, and I reckon it's our lack of knowledge and understanding around it, is the difference between reliability and validity. Let me know in the comments, or just give us a yes, that's some of my kids. Reliability, validity is one of the key concepts in research methodology that the kids still confuse. So obviously looking at reliability, thinking about repeatability, R and R, that repeatability when we're actually doing the research, and making sure that our data, our research can be replicated, can be done again with some other samples. It also refers to the consistency of measurement. So what am I doing with my subjects? Can I actually replicate this with other people? So is my interview, can I actually conduct the same research under similar conditions again and again and again? In terms of reliability, we're looking at the accuracy of data. Does it actually reflect what we intend to set out to do? So if we're maybe creating some questions around youth or around aged, those questions have to be based on, like, we're actually researching and conducting our research with a young person, with an older person. Is our sample size quite large? Otherwise, it can then lead to bias in our research. So really making sure the kids know the difference between the two and can then apply their understanding of that content. Now, as I mentioned, the kids are really good at regurgitating a definition. That's kind of like that band 4 level, possibly band 3, maybe not. Band 3, they kind of draw on, everyday examples. But those band 4 kids, they know their stuff. They might give you 1 or 2 examples to show their understanding, but they can't really then extend past that. The last one that the kids get still confused a little bit is questionnaires and interviews. Obviously, they're 2 examples of surveys. And I think this is, again, a common mistake we make as teachers, is that we say that we're doing a survey, which is a questionnaire, but a survey actually has that umbrella. So survey is a questionnaire and an interview. So making sure we show the difference between the kids when we're doing our research methodology section. Okay, moving on to groups in context. So groups in context, we have a couple of things that come up. Some of the kids confuse parts of car, so making sure we kind of nail that with the kids. They really understand it. So parts of car, they confuse a little bit. We then have the difference between a legislation and a policy. Again, that's a big one. A legislation is a law passed by either the Australian government, obviously our CAFS course, we're in Australia, we're in New South Wales, and so either New South Wales legislation or Australian legislation, it's passed by law, like it's against the law if you break that. So things like Anti-Discrimination Act, we have racial discrimination, ageism, all those kind of things that come under that discrimination area. We then have policies that sometimes have been put in place to support those legislations, or have been put in place to help reduce some of the inequities that exist in our communities. So the kids are still saying that it's like bringing it together, legislation and policy as one concept. They really need to separate it out. And in their exam, they need to show that difference. Here's an example of a policy, and here's how it has been introduced to help reduce those inequities in our communities for that group. And obviously here are some policies that have been developed. So things like Close the Gap, what else do we have? Other things that have been introduced in our communities to help really reduce some of those issues. So again, when we look at those, we're looking at, maybe the protocol for homeless people in public places, the New South Wales Ageing Strategy, NDIS, Cultural and Linguistic Diversity Strategy, New South Wales LGBTIQ Strategy. Again, CAFS Collective members, you guys will have access to these to help kind of get that across to the kids. Now, the other big one that the kids confuse is government organisations government agencies and community organisations. Again, just from year 11, that's that same concept. The kids are still confusing. So making sure we know the difference between a government agency, obviously, is a government-run organisation. Community organisation is a non-government organisation. Obviously not. So I think one thing the kids get confused with is that the government might support NGOs, like they might support or give some funding to community organisations, but they're not actually a government agency. Okay, so making sure the kids know the difference. So things like Centrelink, New South Wales Health, any of the departments. So Australian Government Department of Health, Department of Communities and Justice, Service New South Wales, obviously are government agencies. Community organisations, Meals on Wheels, Orange Sky Laundry, Vinnie's, Red Cross, Barnardo's, Tresillian, Karitani, all those sorts of things. So again, CAFS Collective members, you guys have access to these little goodies inside our CAFS Collective portal. The other one, big one, is community organisations and advocacy. So the kids say that something like Mardi Gras for LGBTIQ+ is an example of a community organisation. White Ribbon Day, Grandparents' Day are examples of community organisations. Now, they're not an organisation. Like White Ribbon Day isn't an organisation. It's a form of advocacy. Really showing the difference between the kids within that is going to kind of obviously get them to move up to those band 5 and 6 mark ranges. Levels of understanding. So again, CAFS Collective members, you guys have access to those. So that's groups in context. To finish off, we're going to look at parenting and caring. Again, adoption, fostering, as I mentioned before. And it's not necessarily the kids don't know what fostering is. They don't know what adoption is. They're very similar in terms of why young people might need to be, be up for adoption or, seek the help of fostering. It's more the intricacies around the actual process and what happens. So hopefully helping the kids kind of nut that out a little bit. Again, the difference between an informal and formal carer. The kids kind of knowing that difference between what that looks like for a carer. So obviously, as I mentioned before, for year 11, so informal, family member, relative, neighbour, close relation, another person who is obviously not paid, without payment, and then obviously a formal carer is a trained professional, that type of thing. The other big one is roles in parenting and caring. Now, I know that it's come up again and again, but roles is PBS, so peanut butter sandwich. So again, CAFS Collective members, you guys have access to these visuals. But one big thing the kids really get confused with is that interrelationship between the three concepts. And I see it again and again. I've seen it in multiple choice. I've seen it in masterclasses that I've ran with inside the Learning Network, and I started this 4 years ago now, but also in the masterclasses and HSC sessions that I used to run for ACHPA, but also HSC in the holidays, those type of organisations. And the last one is rights and responsibilities, another big one. The kids really talk about the responsibilities of parents are to make sure they get to school on time, that they, taking them to certain things, or providing a safe environment. Obviously, some of those things fall within the category of duty of care, but the kids really need to talk about that DSD, that's the acronym. So duty of care, setting limits, and discipline are the 3 things that come under that umbrella of responsibility. So rights, obviously, rights of the child, rights of the dependent, rights of the parent and the cared for, the carer, and then obviously responsibilities come under the umbrella of DSD. So again, CAFS Collective members, you guys have access to this little visual to help you. But look, I know that HSC is just around the corner. Hopefully that provided you guys with a little bit of a quick snapshot as to what some of the common mistakes are that our kids are still making, and what concepts they're still confusing. And I think it's personally, I won't say this out loud to everyone, and I don't think it's everyone, but I think it's sometimes our lack of knowledge that we actually don't know the difference between the 2 of them. Because I see it in our Facebook groups inside the CAFS Collective, people are asking questions about this stuff. I'm like, maybe it's also a bit about us, that we need to firm up our understanding of that. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed our little bite-sized PL. But if you have any questions around these common mistakes or these common misconceptions, please don't hesitate to reach out. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Enjoy the next couple of weeks as the kids round off their preparation for the HSC, and I can't wait to hear how they go for their CAFS exams. Enjoy.